Good morning, honourable members. If I quickly look at the participants in the meeting, I think we do have sufficient members to continue with the meeting. Sabeda, you can just confirm with me if I'm mistaken. But let me welcome honourable members. Thank you for your presence. Also, welcome to everybody present, in particular also the parliamentary staff. It's Friday. It's been an exhausting week. It's been an exhausting month with all the budget vote debates and a very long term that's nearing its end. But thank you very much. We are pressed for time as there's also a debate scheduled at 10 o'clock where there's certain members that's participating in that debate and have to be at that mini plenary. So we will have to stick to our time and ask for your cooperation in that regard. The documents have been circulated, the agenda was circulated, and honourable members did receive that well in advance. Honourable members, let me start by asking let me start by saying that there's a few changes. We have a change in membership. The Honourable Matlala has been appointed a member of this committee by his party, the Mkhonto Sizwe party. I'm not sure if he is present, but regardless, I wish to welcome him as a member of this committee, and we look forward to working with him. Then there has been a change, and members would have seen, to our staff. Cindy, who assisted us, was acting because of a vacancy in our staff component as committee secretary. We have an appointment of a permanent committee secretary, and we welcome Zabeda Arnold as our new committee secretary, and we also thank Cindy for her work, her hard work, her good work in under very difficult circumstances, whilst having to serve her permanent committee and doing the work for us. I wish to thank her on behalf of all the members and this committee for the work that she's done for us, and welcome Sabeda, and we look forward to working with you. Let me then ask Sabeda, is there any apologies that we should note?
Thank you, Chairperson. No apologies.
Thank you very much. Then the agenda, I want to ask members that we just change the order and that we consider the minutes at the end of the meeting, so that we, because we are pressed for time, that we start with the briefing by the Constitutional and Legal Services Office on the legal opinion that we've received. And with that amendment, I would ask if there's a proposal for the adoption of the agenda. Anybody? Honourable Spies?
Yes, I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Honourable Bateman, and then Honourable Spies seconds. So then we can consider the agenda adopted, and you would also see it flighted on the screen now. We can then move to the first item, which is the briefing by Ms. Ibrahim from the Parliamentary Constitutional and Legal Services Office. And members would remember that we commissioned a legal opinion on the matter, the complaint by Mr. Mabaso that we received, and that we wanted the guidance of how we should process this complaint, as it was dealt with by the previous Parliament's committee, by the previous term's SCoAG, but We had certain questions, and we then received this opinion. It was circulated to members, and I would hand over to Ms. Ibrahim for her guidance. You can just speak to the opinion, and then I would give members the opportunity to ask any questions so that we can then come to a conclusion and make a decision on this matter. Ms. Ibrahim, you are most welcome, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to yourself and the fellow honourable members. Chair, as you indicated, a written legal opinion was requested from our office that has been submitted. Members would see that it's quite a lengthy opinion, and I promise it's not because we get paid per word, but I did think it was important for me to set out the factual position in that opinion. So you'll see that at the end of the opinion, it includes a timeline that sets out quite nicely what we know so far in terms of what's happened. Chair, before I begin on the substance of the opinion, there was a related matter that we were asked to advise on, and that concerned two documents that were provided to yourself by the AG's office, and that, as we understood, the previous committee was privy to, but it was provided on the basis that it be treated as confidential, and so it was, as I understood, it was not shared with members, and that was a legal opinion that was prepared by Advocate Krill in Johannesburg on the instruction of the AXA, and that had to do with the merits of the allegations against the AG, and that opinion is dated 24 August 2022. And in short, that opinion found that the allegations can't be sustained. And then there was also an investigation report prepared by the law firm Bowman Gilfillan, which was titled Threats by the Chief People Officer to the Auditor-General, and that's obviously referring to Mr. Mabaso, and that was dated 29 August 2022. Chair, at the time that we were asked to advise, it was our view that it wouldn't be reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society to treat those two legal opinions as restricted or confidential documents. And an engagement therefore followed with our office, your office, and the AXA, and later on they then agreed to release those two records. So as I understand it now, members are in possession of those two documents. Chair, I'm not going to go into any detail about the actual incident and what happened and the merits of the 9 allegations by Mr. Mabaso against the AG. That is not our brief. The question to us is how the committee should deal with the processing of this matter, given that it first surfaced before the previous committee, and it was dealt with to some extent by the previous committee. Chair, in the previous committee, it was the matter was brought to the attention of the committee by both Mr. Mabaso and then also the AG, who reported it, who self-reported the matter in the interest of transparency. And there are records that indicate that the committee dealt with it. But unfortunately, there's no report or resolution regarding the findings or conclusion of the previous committee on the matter. What we do know, Chair, is that in August, I think it was the 25th and 26th of August 2022, there was a closed session that was held between the committee and the AXA, and that was held in Pretoria. And we assume that is where the committee went through the Krill legal opinion, which was provided about 2 days prior to that meeting. And that's where those discussions would have unfolded in terms of the merits of those allegations. This was then followed by an open session that the committee held in September, where the committee then received a briefing by the Deputy Auditor-General and the Audit Committee of the AXA, also relating to the allegations and giving an overview of those two legal opinions. But unfortunately, Chair, the minutes are not entirely clear, but it appears that there was what I would term general satisfaction with the reports and a view that the matter was concluded. However, Chair, as I said, there was no resolution, there was no report. The matter wasn't included in the legacy report. And there was no communication, as far as we can ascertain, to Mr. Mabaso, appraising him of SCoAG's findings in the matter. Accordingly, in February this year, he then addressed correspondence to the chairperson, accusing the previous committee of sweeping the matter under the carpet and urging the chair, in his words, to take the matter seriously and investigate to prove or disprove the allegations contained in his affidavit. So members will know that there is an affidavit that contains some detail as regards the merits of the 9 allegations. Chair, in terms of the regulatory framework, members are obviously familiar with the fact that the AG is a Chapter 9 institution, and there are important constitutional principles that need to be considered for purposes of our advice. The one is that the AG is independent. Second, that the AG is impartial and performs its functions without fear, favour, or prejudice. And then the third and fourth ones, which are very important. The AG must be assisted and protected by other organs of state to ensure their independence, impartiality, dignity, and effectiveness. And I focus on that word dignity. And then the AG may not have their functioning interfered with by any person or organ of state. And the Constitutional Court has been quite clear as to the importance of this independence, saying in the second certification judgment that the independence and impartiality is required to be beyond question, and it must be protected by stringent provisions in the Constitution. So it's in this context that the SCoAG maintains its oversight over the AG. In terms of oversight, Chair, there are no rules that dictate the manner in which oversight must happen. Parliament does have an oversight and accountability model. And in terms of the model, the purpose of oversight is to enhance the integrity of public governance in order to safeguard government against corruption, nepotism, abuse of power, and other forms of inappropriate behavior. So oversight can happen either in a formal or an informal manner. And it really is for the committee to decide how that will unfold. So things that a committee will consider when doing its oversight would be the nature of the matter. Obviously, the more serious the matter, the greater the level of oversight that may be required in respect thereof, whether there are any legal prescripts applicable to the matter. So, for example, where there is a complaint about an HR-related issue, a committee would be wise to say that the complainant should first exhaust internal remedies, and only where there's an issue of non-compliance with the law should that come to the committee. Or the committee may say that that there are other legal prescripts that would prevent it from looking at a matter. Then the committee would need to consider the resources and time available to it. Obviously, there are times when there are more matters than what a committee is physically able to attend to, and it's impossible to attend to everything. And so there has to be a method where competing priorities can be dealt with. And then obviously also whether any other committee of Parliament or any other organ of state may be looking at a particular matter. Of course, the fact that a matter is being investigated elsewhere, so for example by the Public Protector or the SIU, wouldn't absolve Parliament from conducting its oversight, but it is something that a committee may take into consideration. So in this matter, Chair, the allegations are, of course, as you know, quite serious, and they impact on public trust and confidence in the AG, which are essential components of our constitutional democracy. It is the very purpose that the AG exists. The AG is a watchdog of public expenditure, and the role of the AG is designed in such a manner as to promote accountability. So if you have a situation where the AG is besieged by allegations of impropriety or malfeasance of any sort, this in turn then erodes public trust and confidence in the AG and weakens the AXA as a whole. So as part of its responsibilities, however, Chair, Parliament plays a dual role in this committee in particular, because there is the oversight on one hand, but also, as I indicated, we're also constitutionally bound to assist and protect the AG, and importantly, again, the dignity of the AG. So it was my view that when serious allegations like this are brought to the attention of the committee, that it must be dealt with swiftly. And that's important not only to hold the AG to account, but also to ensure that where there is a case that is devoid of merit or that it's founded on nefarious grounds, that they dealt with in a matter that restores and protects the dignity of the AG. So that's really two sides of the same coin. So in terms of way forward, Chair, as I indicated, there are no precise rules or prescripts to guide a committee on how it conducts its oversight. The sixth SCoAG was at liberty to deal with the matter in the way in which they did, which was to have those briefings. It appears that they were satisfied that there was no prima facie evidence to support the allegations, and that's where the matter ended. However, Chair, my concern from a legal perspective is that it's unclear as to why the committee failed to inform Mr. Mabaso of its decision. It's unclear why it wasn't contained in a clear resolution. And I think that this has contributed to the sense that he may have that the SCoAGs failed to deal with the matter effectively. It's also unfortunate that the records don't indicate clearly what the views of members were. This may be because and be exacerbated by the fact that that initial discussion about the merits of the matter was held in a closed session at that meeting in Pretoria. And I suspect, Chair, obviously I wasn't there, but I suspect that that is where the committee would have engaged with the allegations and members would have formed their viewpoints. The problem, though, as I said, is that that meeting was held in closed session. And so there is an issue of lack of transparency when it came to dealing with it. For the sake of completeness, Chair, I do advise that the committee apply its mind to the matter to bring it to conclusion. I base that advice on the factual position as I understand it, and that as I've captured in the document at the end of my opinion, because I do feel that to an extent the matter is hanging. And that's prejudicial not only to Mr. Mabaso in his capacity as the complainant, but also to the AG, in that somebody that goes to look at the parliamentary records to see what's transpired in this matter may not be able to find a clear answer. So in doing so, Chair, the committee can apply its mind to the affidavit that Mr. Mabaso submitted to the previous SCoAG, the content of those two restricted documents. And then I know the committee's already received a briefing from the Deputy Auditor-General. And of course, if the committee feels that it requires a further briefing, it may do so. If the committee is of the view that there is a prima facie case to be answered that requires some sort of further investigation by the committee would be free to do that. Alternatively, if the committee is satisfied that there is no prima facie case and therefore there is no need to expend further time and resources on the matter, that the committee resolves on that clearly and then communicates that position to Mr. Mabaso so that he is aware. Chair, that being said, I do note that the Krill legal opinion, even though it found that there were no merit to the allegations against the AG, it did find that there were some other matters that required attention. And of course, if the committee is resolving that this matter is settled and that it doesn't need to look at it any further, that the committee is satisfied that there are no merits to the allegations, it is important that those matters are still followed up on. And those include governance and control weaknesses identified in that opinion. So I'm not sure to what extent the committee has been formally following up on that, but ideally what the committee would want is a timeline against those particular issues that were picked up and for the AG to regularly report in respect of same. Of course, nothing prevents the committee from identifying anything further that may have emanated from the affidavit or from Mr. Mabaso's complaint that it wishes the AG to pay attention to and to come back and report on. But Chair, in brief, that is our advice, that due to the lack of clarity on the matter, it is important that the committee resolve on the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ibrahim, for that briefing and also for the legal opinion and your guidance in this regard. Honourable members, I'm going to open up for any questions for clarity and discussion on this matter. I'll note your hands. Any contributions? Any questions? Honourable Bateman, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and a big thanks also to the legal team for the advice and to Ms. Ibrahim for being here and presenting today. I thought the opinion was excellent, and I covered the issues well and balanced. And I think what we need to do is have a look again at the affidavit from the complainant and see if there's anything in there that has not been adequately addressed or taken into account in the legal opinion that we received, as they've advised, and then we can assess whether there's a need to actually summon the complainant or not, or whether we feel that all of his issues have actually been aired and addressed. But I think without looking at the specifics of it, it'll be difficult for us. And the reason why I say that is, you would recall that our main concern with the legal opinion was that it had been commissioned by effectively under the AG's own sphere of influence, and so there was just a weakness in terms of the process that had been followed there. So, but I think if there's nothing that's substantial in the complainant's evidence that we can pick up from a review of the affidavit that hasn't been addressed by the legal opinion, then I think that should be sufficient based on this new legal opinion that we've received. That should be sufficient for us to put the matter to bed, or to decide to reopen it if we've come across evidence that was not taken into account, or any kind of evidence that what was presented in that first legal opinion was not a full and factual account of what had taken place. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Bateman. I think that summarises our what we should do effectively, because we must remember that we have the Kroll legal opinion, as you said, then we have the Bowman investigation report as well, and then the affidavit by the complainant. And what we should then, and as I understand you correctly, and I think that's also the advice, is we should resolve and decide and apply our minds if those two investigation reports, or the investigation report and the legal opinion by Kroll, addresses and the complaints sufficiently, and if there's then any prima facie evidence left that should be investigated further and resolved on further. If not, then we can conclude the matter. If so, we should reopen the matter, and I think we should take that into account to then resolve to go and look at that once again and have a meeting where we then make a decision, as you've also pointed out. Honourable Spies.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to everyone else on the platform. I'm pretty much clear, Chair. My question just to Ms. Ibrahim is that I would like to understand what would the implications be if the committee decides to conduct a further inquiry or not, and how this might impact the possible confidence in Parliament and the AG. And I might have missed that, but I think for future purposes, and to just make sure that we as a committee are in line when it comes to matters like this, that we must make sure that there are proper protocols that is in place particularly with regards to handling of a sensitive or confidential matter. And then my last question, just or maybe a comment in terms of us handling the matter then going forward. I think it's important to make sure that we address the governance and control weaknesses identified in the Kroll legal opinion, and that we possibly consider subjecting that to a much more focused sort of oversight action. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I think that's also very important that if we make a decision here, we consider to then, if there's agreement, have a meeting where after we've, as individual members, went and through all of this again and looked at the affidavit in light with what the findings in the Kroll legal opinion on the Bowman investigation report was, to then come back and resolve on that, but to also then include in our decision a separate meeting where we get feedback and scrutinize the matters relating to the governance and control weaknesses which were identified and how the AGSA has addressed that, the changes that has been made, and the progress in that regard. Ms. Ibrahim will answer further on your specific question to her, Honourable Speaker, but let me just check if there's other members that also want to ask any questions for clarity. I don't see any further hands. Can I then hand over to Ms. Ibrahim to answer those that specific question and also give your further insights if there's anything further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honourable Speaker. Chairperson, the difficulty that you have is that Parliament shouldn't be a repository for complaints. It becomes quite easy for members of the public every time they are unhappy with anything, be it service delivery or treatment within a government department, or whatever the case may be, to send it Parliament's way. But you don't want your oversight to be bottlenecked by matters which should appropriately be dealt with elsewhere. So it's really quite a fine line. In this particular matter, it concerned allegations of a very serious nature and allegations that relate directly to the AG. And so in terms of the matters that you would look at when considering whether to conduct oversight on something, this is one of those matters where you would say, without having to even give it much thought, that certainly the committee needs to apply its mind because of the nature of the allegations, which were quite serious. So that weighing exercise of what's baseless, what's justified, whether there's prima facie evidence or not, is something that a committee would need to consider on a case-by-case basis. If the committee doesn't do it, the impact is that the public loses confidence in Parliament. But in this particular matter, and important for this committee, is also a loss of confidence in the organ of state that you are exercising oversight over, which in this case is the Auditor-General. I always say, Chair, it's important that it's not only important that oversight is done, because lots of oversight is done behind the scenes. It's not necessarily only in these open meetings, but that it must be seen to be done. And I think in this particular matter, that's perhaps where the previous committee may have fallen short. The work was done, but unfortunately, it wasn't shared in a transparent manner. So that's just something important for the committee to bear in mind going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ibrahim, for that. I see Honourable Maduna's hand. I'll give you an opportunity. What I just want to add is that there is a contestation that the reason why the previous committee dealt with it in this way is that there was no formal complaint by the complainant. It was an email that was sent to all the members of the committee without really or not being in the form of a formal complaint, and that is why there was no feedback. regardless of that, I think we should agree with the advice that it's better that there's transparency. We now have a very formal complaint, although it's a rehash of a complaint, but it is now formally with the committee, and that's why we should apply our minds and deal with it. Let me give Honourable Maduna an opportunity, and then Honourable Muali.
No, thanks, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair, to the members of the committee and the public, the viewers at home. No, Chair, I think there are just 4 elements that my observation that from reading the document that relate to this particular case, that worries me. Regardless of whether it was a formal complaint or not, I, however, believe that the way the 6th administration dealt with the matter, to me, was not satisfactory. One, there was a lack of transparency on this matter. I think I'm really worried that most of the deliberations around the matter were held in closed doors. And I think this might lead to undermine the public confidence in the work of the SCoAG oversight that it must play, because it brings questions as to why these deliberations would have been had behind closed doors. 2, the failure after they would have completed with whatever they were busy with to communicate their findings to Mr. Mabaso, who's the one who would have raised the matter. That as well is making the matter now to be seen as if there's something that the SCoAG was untoward on this matter. Thirdly, the absence of, because I think if you look at the matter, it does not have a clear resolution in terms of, or minutes for that matter, in terms of its conclusion. It's quite ambiguous in terms of determining what must happen with this thing in relation to the Mabaso matter. And lastly, we have delayed. I think if the man would have raised the matter long ago, SCoAG has delayed to deal with the matter, of which is a worrisome, Chair. So I think as a way forward as well, I want to concur perhaps with you, Chair, and the other speakers that I think we'll need to review the matter, relook at the document, determine ourselves if there was any evidence of wrongdoing or not. Because, Chair, I must state as a submarine that we must all realize that there's no one who's absolute. Even the AG herself, she's not absolute. Everyone is open to that there could be a wrongdoing one way or the other. We're not saying that she's wrong or she was not. Let's review the evidence. Let those that must account. Let's determine whether it's a fallacy or it's true, and then we move forward as a committee. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maduna. I want to echo your sentiments as well, that I think the other shortcoming was the fact that there was no resolution by the National Assembly on this matter. And it's, I think, very important that a report is tabled in the House and that the National Assembly resolves on such an issue, and that it's not only dealt with as it was dealt with by the previous committee. So I think we all agree on the shortcomings, and I appreciate your support for how we should deal with it then further. Let me give the Honourable Muali an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and members of the committee. We want to welcome the presentation and the advice. Can you still hear me, Chair?
Yes, Honourable Muali, you are audible. Okay,
thank you so much. Chairperson, the reason why this matter is surfacing again in the 7th administration is a clear indication that it was not properly dealt with in the 6th administration. And as you correctly said, Chair, we are sitting with the formal complaint now, which with all these legal opinions, of which then it leaves us with no option but as a committee to consider really opening it again and carefully looking at all the sides and consider all the sides, and also make our input as this committee and as this seventh administration, particularly because we are dealing with a very big Chapter 9 institution, which survives on the issues of independence. So if then independence must be tested, or issues around this office must be tested, let us go through the process of testing the issues that have been raised by the complainant against the AG. And then evidence would then surface to say, this is what really transpired. Then we make our determination based on evidence. Because, Chair, I'm afraid also as public representatives, to appear as if you have already taken a side as a committee, or appears to have taken a position as this committee around this matter. So I would support as MK Party a notion that we reopen this matter, deal with it, and then make our determination around the matter. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Mwali. I agree. We should not, and I don't think it is the sentiment of any member in the committee, and it has not been since we've begun discussing this issue and deliberating on this issue that we've already made a determination. We must look at and peruse the documents and the evidence before us and come to a conclusion. So if I hear all the members correctly, that there is support to peruse those documents at this stage, look at the legal opinion, look at the Bowman investigation report, look at the affidavit of the complainant, and then deliberate on it and resolve how we deal with it further. If we deal with it in the form of an reopening of an investigation to, for instance, call the complainant before the committee, call the AG before the committee, or is it sufficient, and will it be sufficient to make a determination on the matter on the basis of the documents before us? And that is what members must apply their minds to, and I would urge members to do that. So if there's no objection to us dealing with it in that way, we can resolve this matter that we then schedule a meeting, and we'll have to look at the program to schedule a meeting as soon as possible to then resolve on this. It will have to be in the next term, but as soon as possible when we rise again for the next term, when constituency period is over, that we then have a meeting to then discuss our different opinions on the matter of how to then deal with it further, after all of us having a rehash and a review of all those documents and looking at it thoroughly, and then coming back and deliberating on the issue. So that's the proposal, and I have not heard, I've heard support for that. I do see your hand, Honourable Subrati. Let me give you an opportunity, and then we can conclude this point.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and let me greet yourself and honourable members on the call. I'm one of those members who's debating this morning, so I'm also preparing for that. Chairperson, let me support the views of the House and that the African National Congress supports the leadership you have provided and how this matter has been processed. Just wish to maybe propose and suggest that as the Parliament of the people, so that the people are where we are listening to them, that a a feedback be submitted to Mr. Mabaso indicating that his complaint has been received, it is being taken seriously, and it is being processed. So he is also, as a citizen of the country, that his plea has been followed and that the SCoAG is giving it due consideration. So I'm just suggesting that we, as we agree and we support your way forward, we should ensure that this is communicated to Mr. Mabaso so he's aware. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Subrati. That's a very good suggestion that we update the complainant on the progress and on where we are with this matter, and we will do so. I will write to Mr. Mabaso and update him. Honourable members, can we conclude this matter? We are pressed for time. I don't see any other hands. Then we conclude, and we will then have a follow-up meeting where we will then come back as members after we've looked at those documents again. I want to ask the Secretariat to just resend the Kroll legal opinion, the Bowman investigation report, and the affidavit of the complainant to honourable members. We have it in our possession, but just to there's a lot of documents and a lot of work, and members serve on different committees, so that we just have it, so it just makes it easier to find those documents. If we can do that, and then we'll have a meeting, obviously also, as we've discussed, with the AG to receive an update on how those shortcomings that were addressed, the progress made with regards to that. But it's two separate matters to a large extent. Although it emanates from the complaint, we're not going to conclude, as the legal opinion also advised us, that if we conclude the complaint, we shouldn't conclude the oversight over those weaknesses that were identified. So we will have those two meetings that will follow from this. Honourable members, we can then move on, and we then have the minutes of the 16th of May. If that can be flighted for us, please. It was distributed to honourable members, and I trust that honourable members did go through it to check for the correctness. So I'm not going to go through everything. Page 1, is there any problem with page 1? Then we can move to page 2. Members can just indicate if there's any corrections that should be made. Page 3. Page 4. We can move faster. Page 5. Just the summary. There we are in the meeting, the opening, consideration. Page 5, page 6. And then it's a lot of what was in the report, so I'm not going to go through that page by page. We can go to the very end of the minutes. Honourable Bateman.
Just on page 10, 4320, I think there's a word south that should be sought.
Thank you very much for that. 4320. That's just a spelling error. Yeah, sought clarity. So that can just be corrected. Thank you for that, Honourable Bateman. We can then move on if there's nothing else, no other corrections. And if there's no other problems, I can ask for mover for the adoption of the minutes. Honourable Spies.
Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes.
Thank you very much. There's a mover for the adoption of the minutes with that one correction. Honourable Subrati.
I second the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much. Honourable Subarati seconds, and the minutes is then adopted with the one correction that was made. Thank you very much. We can then move to the committee report, the report on the briefing by the AGSA on the MFMA issues, the delayed annual reports of municipalities. And this was also distributed to honourable members. I'm not going to go through it page by page. So honourable members, if there's any corrections, please raise that now. Otherwise, we can move to the recommendations at the very end of the report, please. There's the committee observations and recommendations. There's two recommendations. Now, honourable members would remember that when we deliberated on this, we discussed that we should meet with the other committees that's also responsible for this matter and that has oversight in this regard, and which this matter was also referred to by the Speaker. There was then a meeting between myself and the House Chairperson, Frolic, following a follow-up letter by the Speaker that was written to the House Chairperson, but also to the Chairpersons of COCTA and SCOPA and SCOF. And they then resolved to undertake oversight to some of these municipalities, especially the Free State municipalities that were mentioned in this report. And there was then a suggestion that and a decision made that there's members of SCOPA that will accompany the Portfolio Committee of Cooperative Governance on this oversight visit. One delegate, if I'm not mistaken, will accompany them to also then provide the perspective of public accounts in this regard. There was then an invitation that we should, as SCoAG, also consider, if it's necessary, to send one or two members from our committee to join this oversight. So with regards to these recommendations, that is then also part thereof. If to resolve now that we participate, or that we just also look at, we can make a decision if we are going to participate in the oversight visit, send a member, or are we going to get the report from the committee of COCTA on that oversight and then just have further deliberations on this particular matter of the failure to submit annual reports and deal with it in that fashion. So, honourable members, we can make a decision on that, but you see the recommendations there in the draft report, and then the matter that I brought to your attention. I myself am not available to go on that oversight. The oversight is taking place on the 24th and 25th of July. It's in 2 weeks' time. I have other engagements that has already been scheduled. But if there's other members and that's available, and if you feel that that is necessary, then we can make those arrangements, and I can we can resolve in that regard. So I want to hear your opinion on the oversight, and then also on the recommendations as it's written there currently. Your guidance and inputs would be appreciated, honourable members. Honourable Subarati.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you so much for the feedback and the engagement with Honorable Frolic. I do support the suggestion that a member or members of our committee joins the joint oversight with COGTA, members of COGTA and SCOPA. So I support that. I think it would be beneficial for us to have insight into what is going on. That's one. Two, I would have loved to have joined representing the African National Congress, but unfortunately, I am already committed to those 2 days in leadership training being provided by the School of Governance. So unfortunately, I will be unable to join. I do support it, the initiative. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Subrati. I appreciate there's been support that we do send someone to that oversight. I see the Honourable Muwali is available. I appreciate that. Honourable Spies?
I am available as well, Chair.
We then have 2 members that's available. Any other members that would want to go? I think we should limit it to 2 members. And we can then engage with the committee of COGTA to have 2 members join. So can I ask, are we in agreement that we send the Honourable Muwali and the Honourable Spies to represent SCoAG with this oversight in the Free State? Agreed. There's no objections, so we can resolve in that matter. We can then add to these recommendations that exactly this, that we will participate in the oversight to some of these municipalities that are affected and are pointed out in this report, and report back to the committee and resolve and deliberate further. So, honourable members, we've now made the decision on the oversight. Can we then consider the report as it is? Is there a mover for the adoption of the report? Anybody?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to move
Thank you,
for the
Honourable
adoption of the
Bateman.
report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Bateman. Appreciate. A seconder?
Good morning, Chair. I'm seconding. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mofokeng. I appreciate. Then is there any objections to the report? None. Then the report is adopted. I do appreciate. Then we can table the report and also then make the arrangements for the Honourable Spies and Honourable Muwali to participate in the oversight visits to the Free State, the 24th and 25th. Honourable members, then that concludes our meeting, except for the programme. There's been certain changes to the programme, and we've reached the end of the second term. We made there's certain amendments that were made due to the availability of, for instance, the Special Investigatory Unit, which would have appeared in front of us. We had to reschedule that meeting because of the unavailability. So it's that meeting, the meeting with National Treasury on the funding of the AGSA and the outstanding audit fees. You would remember that ongoing issue and the feedback or update that we requested from National Treasury. That meeting is also still outstanding. So it's those 2 meetings, and then the meetings that we discussed today, emanating from today's discussions on the complaint. So there's 4 meetings basically, and then there's further meetings, the normal annual report, budget, strategic plan meetings that will be scheduled in November, December later on. That draft report will be, or draft program rather, will be circulated to honourable members. I don't think we should adopt a program at this stage. let's get possible dates for those meetings. We will then circulate to honourable members, and honourable members can indicate if they have any objections to that the program in that regard. But I think if we can, in principle, agree to those 4 meetings that will take place as soon as possible in the 3rd term, and that we will then get dates and in accordance with the parliamentary program, availability of everybody concerned, we will then schedule it as such. Is there any objections to that way of dealing with it? Nothing. Honourable members, then I thank you for your participation, for your input, and for dealing with these matters. Thank you to the 2 honourable members that will represent the committee on the oversight visit, and that will report back to the committee so that we can also then further assist and strengthen the AG with its mandate in terms of accountability of municipalities. And let me also wish you well with the rest of this term. There's still a few hurdles in terms of few sittings that have to take place, the budget that has to be considered, and let's get the work done, and then let's do our constituency work. But let me wish everybody well and thank the committee staff for their assistance and work assisting us, and have a good weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you.